For staying with us. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, has demanded that those found guilty of corruption, which includes looting, should not be granted state pardon. According to a statement by the Special Assistant to the President on Communication and Publicity, Office of the AGF, Kamarudeen Ogundele, it is necessary for anti-graft agencies to conduct thorough investigations of cases before arresting suspects to avoid media trials, while adding that there should be no basis for rationalizing corruption or crimes. He stressed that everyone's cooperation is needed to fight corruption. Well, joining us in the studio is a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Now, when we introduced this matter of pardon for offenders, that was in the military era, yes, and I recall that one of our leaders then, it was General Gowon, that introduced that, or he brought that in, and some persons were pardoned at the time because of their offenses. But over the years, there's been issues around this matter of be it state pardon or presidential pardon, how we've been able to use it to actually address matters as stated by the Constitution. So would like for you to give some context to this matter constitutionally and how we have been able to use this effectively.
Interestingly, if you look at Section 175 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it gives the President the power to grant this prerogative in collaboration with the Council of State. And that power was exercised in favor of Darie, recently, and then in Yami, who, even though the Supreme Court confirmed their convictions, the president with the State Council, granted them state pardon. And again, you recall the case of Alamasie, former governor of Bayelsa State, in 2013 also, the then president, Dr. Ebele Goodluck Jonathan, granted him state pardon, And in 2015, the former governor of Delta State, Ibori, who was jailed for 13 years in the UK, also enjoyed state pardon. And it became like it has been turned to a political tool. And of course, if you look at Section 212 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it gives the governors the same power at the state level. And what this does is that it challenges the authority and the efficacy of the judiciary, knowing that we have three arms of government, because you can imagine the rigors of prosecution that has gone in from the trial level to the Supreme Court. And after recording convictions, the executive will rise up and say, you are free off the hook. And specifically, when Darie's matter came up in the Supreme Court, I was in the Supreme Court the same day, and thank God we had victory in our own matter. But I witnessed something disturbing at the lobby of the Supreme Court in Abuja. His supporters were asked to line up, and they were giving money right there, because what the Attorney General is making reference to now is fight against corruption. And if he succeeds, like he has succeeded in going to the Supreme Court to have the autonomy for the local government authority, if he succeeds, it will give a back-end support for fight against corruption.
Can I ask a question there? What do you think, excuse me, he will succeed?
Okay, let me start by going back to the same constitution. Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says clearly that the National Assembly shall make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good governance in Nigeria. And of course, the state houses of assembly have the same mandate. Now, he can only, try to lobby for the amendment. The reference is made to the amendment of the Constitution.
Okay.
Is the National Assembly ready to amend the Constitution? Knowing that quite a number of them were either governors or they have held offices that may be subject to investigation. Because if you want to go to ICPC itself, that convened, that was the subject matter of discussion. ICPC came on board, I think 29th of September, year 2000 or so. It was a response to the bad image Nigeria had globally. Nigeria was rated then as the second most corrupt country in the world. So Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, as the president, came up with ICPC, to help in dealing with these corrupt matters. And 24 years down the line, we are now trying to evaluate the performance of ICPC. And again, reference was made to the need to unify efforts, to synchronize efforts, because we have many law enforcement agencies. You have the EFCC, different agencies. How can we fight corruption? But by and large, Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended stipulates clearly that the state shall abolish corrupt practices and abuse of office. So my question is, even if we have an amendment now that state pardon is no longer allowed, what happens to the ecosystem of criminal justice management? Because you need 3 strong pillars: thorough investigation, diligent prosecution, and a committed judiciary. And I think that is what should bother us. I recall that if we talk about corruption in this land, I think I was in Form 1 in 1977, and recall that NNPC was established on the 1st of April 1977. The same year, $2.8 billion disappeared from the NNPC account. The then Minister of Petroleum was Muhammadu Buhari, you see. And reportedly, Dr. Olushola Saraki was the president of Senate then. This money was traced, reportedly, to a Midland account in the UK, managed by the Minister of Petroleum. But somehow, this matter became messy, and you recall what happened, the coup that took place thereafter, and Shagari was booted out of office. And when Olushola Saraki proceeded to grant an interview to NTA through Ifudu was sacked by Buhari, even though she went to court and win, because in labor matters, you can approach the court if you think you have been wrongfully disengaged from your duty. So the corruption, and I just spoke about year 2000. At that time, the report was that, oh, this thing is endemic, it's a virus, it's this one. But what do we say today? That 100 billion naira was spent on turning around moribund refineries. In fact, there is a current report now that Nigeria lost about 437,000 barrels of crude oil daily between JJ is January and July 2024, worth about $10 billion to criminal activities. Right. So we have hydra-headed corruption against the land. So is it the amendment of the Constitution or the will to fight corruption like China is doing and some other countries?
So where do you stand on this that you have mentioned? Is it the amendment of the Constitution or the will? Where do you think we are as it is? Because from what you have said, it seems like this is just an effort in futility, if that is what we're looking at, or another wild good chase.
It may not be an effort in futility, but you see, the ICPC itself came on board in year 2000, and it was intended to help fight corruption. How far have we gone? I say that we have enough laws in Nigeria now, even with that constitution, to fight corruption. I mean, we've been reading about how protesters have been arrested and they are being prosecuted. Who are the oil thieves? Who are they? They have arrested their badges. They've gone to dismantle their illegal refining sites. So we don't have characters around these businesses. But again, talking about corruption, it is, you know, it is often managed by the high and mighty. And that is why I feel for Honorable Dele Alake, who probably thinking aloud said that powerful people are behind illegal mining in Nigeria. So the conclusion is that we know the people behind illegal mining, but they are untouchables. And any nation that is held down by untouchable criminals is out for trouble.
What
So
makes
it
them
is the
untouchable?
will to deal with them.